I should say too, one of the things that I ask folks is, what's your cylinder index?
Okay.
And so you got to total up all the cylinders that you own. They don't have to be running or functioning, but just you can be mulling that over in the back of your mind.
I was kind of preparing for this, so I think it's...
You've watched our podcast?
I have.
Dang.
I've seen a few.
We have a fan.
Yeah. Well, Sinclair told me I was the most talked about person on the podcast so far. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I think it's 53.
Dang.
I don't know.
That's a good number.
Yeah.
Nice. And is that number higher than your age?
Yes.
Okay. See.
Yes. So I just turned 45.
That's the rule. All right.
So
nice.
Yep.
Cool.
It's not all big engines, but there's a lot of single cylinder.
It's all right.
Mini bikes, dirt bikes, four-wheelers.
We should almost give extra credit for two-cycle, I think.
Oh, I've got a few. I raced a few.
Nice. We'll get into that.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
Good deal. All right. Well, guys, welcome back to the Peace and Grease podcast. I'm Flannel. That's Sinclair behind the camera. And we're sitting down today with Jeremy.
Jeremy Pedersen.
And you go by, you have a
Pedro.
AKA. Yeah.
Most people call me Pedro. But Relic Customs is what I sign my stuff as.
There you go.
Business name,
Relic.
if you want to call it that.
That's how I got to know who you are first, was by seeing your artwork.
Okay.
Like, okay, that's Relic. Okay, so name with the other name with the face.
Yep.
So yeah, awesome. Well, Jeremy, thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
And I want to jump in right away and talk about what you drove in the shop today. So let's spend a little bit of time on the car, and then we'll get into a little bit more of your backstory, who you are, what you do, and stuff like that.
Okay.
But give me the 30-second version of who you are, where you're from.
Jeremy Pedersen, Relic Customs, originally from Austin, Minnesota. Born and raised there, spent most of my life there, and 9 years ago we relocated to Lake Havasu City, Arizona.
Cool.
Not cool, it's hot.
Oh, okay.
It's the winter time is cool.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
yeah, no, it's the winters don't suck, and then come back here in the summertime when it gets really, really hot and sweat a little bit.
Yeah. Come back to the humidity.
Right. Yeah, they don't have that down there. They freak out if it's like 30% humidity. They think that's damp.
Well, tell us about what's behind us here.
So this car is a 1951 Hudson two-door Pacemaker. And I got it about 18, 19 years ago. A guy that I worked with when I was in high school actually had it at his dad's farm. And they had two of them. They had this two-door and they also had a four-door. And both of them were sitting out in the mud, underneath a lean-to. And yeah, I got a call one day. I can't remember if it was Riles that called me or my brother, and they said, "Do you want that car?" So, of course, I said yes. And then he said, "Do you want the four-door?" And I'm like, "I don't have room for the two-door, but we'll take the two-door."
Cool.
Because I didn't think much of four-doors at the time, but kind of wish I would have taken it. Oh well.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I've always gravitated towards two-door. To me, they're just cooler.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so we got it, and it sat underneath another barn for a couple years before we got into a different shop, friend's shop, and we worked on it there. I was actually living in Chatfield at the time, and we'd go back and forth to Austin, and we'd work on it on the weekends and jam out as much as we could, have a few grain belts, and tore all the paint off of it, straightened it to the best of our abilities, and pulled the motor, put a small block in it, automatic, S10 rear end,
Right on.
did what we could with what we had.
And the whole idea from the beginning was to kind of hot rod it, right? You weren't gonna restore it.
Yeah, no, Riles was big on he always told stories he was gonna take it back to factory, full restoration. He was a factory guy, all original. And he would roll over in his grave if he's seen it right now.
Ask any car guy, what's something that you'd like to change in your build? And I guarantee he'll say something about the electrical wiring. Because just like going shoe shopping with your girl, it can feel overwhelming and hopeless. But great news, the Peace and Grease podcast is sponsored by WireCare. They've got all the connectors and terminal ends, sleeving, heat shrink, zip ties, and all the tools to make your project's electrical wiring something to be proud of and show off at the next cruise night, because it's done safe and organized and done right. We're excited to be working with WireCare at the Peace and Grease HQ, so go check out their products and tools at wirecare.com.
Guys, just wanted to remind you to head on over to peaceandgreasecollective.com. Check out our merch over there. We got exclusive designs by Sinclair. You can check some of these things out. So cool. And if you head over to Patreon, you can join Patreon for free for $5 a month, or if you join the $20 a month, you're gonna get a t-shirt every single month. So check that out.
But at least it's on the road, you know?
Cool.
So, yeah, I don't know, when I got it, it was kind of like the beginning of the magazine Old School Rods and Car Culture Deluxe and all that stuff, you know, and like flat black and red wheels and all that stuff was the rage at the time. And I'm like, we'll kind of go that direction.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But ended up sanding it down to bare metal, and part bare metal cleared over and part matte black. And
Yeah.
it's had a few different changes. Changed the pinstriping many times that I've done, and yeah.
That's cool.
My brother did the interior, all that.
Yeah.
It's all redone in the order of a purse that I found from Jenny from Trophy Queen. We had met her out at the Grand National Roadster Show years ago and become good friends, and my wife had bought a purse from her, and I'm like, this is exactly how the interior is gonna look.
Wow.
So
that's how you chose that color, that pattern of
right,
fabric.
right.
And
Yeah,
stuff like that.
so it's gloss black, and then it's got like a floral pattern insert. And the amount of material that we ordered that looked like bondage gear when we got it was kind of strange and had to be sent back. But finally we found the right like gloss black material that would hold up for interior work.
Sure.
And yeah.
Man, it turned out awesome. It
Thank
looks
you.
really, really sharp. The headliner in this thing is massive. I mean, just
Yeah, there's a lot of steel up there.
yeah. Wow.
And a lot of material for Nick did the suede white, you know, so there's a lot of stretching, a lot of bows.
Yeah, I believe it. Wow. We were talking outside, and I didn't realize until you said it, but those back windows crank down.
They do.
Inside.
They do.
That's such a neat feature.
It's a lot of glass because I mean, they actually made those cars. The 2 doors and the 4 doors are the exact same. They only cut different doors into them. So for the 4 door, they shortened up the 2 door version and put a post in there. So it's got a shorter front door and then a short back door, and then there's still another section of glass. So,
Man, I didn't sit in the back seat, but it looks like there's a ton of like leg room back there, and
yeah.
like it's just made to almost have that limousine feel or look to it. Back there.
Driving Miss Daisy all the way.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now,
And the trunk's even bigger.
Yeah, so cool. Did you chop the roof?
No, that's factory roof height, which a lot of guys get screwed up thinking it's a chopped Merc, and it's factory roof height.
Man, it's so cool just the way that it is. It fooled me.
Yeah.
Like when we were looking at it outside, like I thought for sure that you had, and that you did just such a good job of stitching it back together.
No.
But yeah,
No,
that's awesome.
that would definitely be a fun job chopping that roof. Yeah.
What did you do for suspension to get it to ride as low as it does?
Where it is now, we put just blocks in the back and cut the coil springs in the front. And we just kind of measured it, looked at it. We're like, 1 coil should be enough. Put them back together, dropped the jack, and almost cut our toes off with the front bumper. So it's a bit low, but I'd like to actually take the front back up a little bit and then drop the back even more. So we'd have to C-notch it, cut the tunnel, redo all that stuff.
Yeah, be a lot more work, but
Right.
then you could probably like throw sparks.
Oh yeah,
If you're doing
yeah,
that.
for sure.
Do you ever want to air ride it?
I'd thought about it, but I don't think I want the headaches.
Okay.
I know my brother's got a Mazda mini truck that has it, and it's just like, is it worth it? No, I'd rather just have a static ride and,
Sure.
just drag where I have to.
Yeah, I dig it. It's cool. There's a lot to be said for static, I think. I
Yeah.
think it's fun, especially if you throw kids and a couple coolers in the
Right.
back and stuff like that. It's
Right.
nice that it's gonna stand up.
Well, they look super cool when they're all aired out, but you know, the headaches that go along with it.
For sure. So anything performance-wise done to the engine?
Not necessarily. This is the second or third motor that we've had in it. The original one, when we put it together, I got from a guy in Chatfield, and it was a B-mod motor, you know, one of his backups, and we threw that in there, and I don't know, ran it for a few years until one of the piston skirts let loose, and had to find another source. So got this motor from another friend and put it in there. I think it was actually, I think it was originally a Derby motor. So,
okay. So,
but
it's nice and loose. It's gotten hot plenty of times.
I mean, there's nothing serious about it. Like,
cool. Yeah.
It's a good cruiser, and that's it.
Yeah, just a cruiser.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you said it's a 3-speed transmission, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
okay. So top speed on the highways.
I don't even know.
Oh, okay.
The gauges don't work. So I only get reports from whoever following me, or if I put GPS on or something.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So yeah, it's like I said, low and slow, and just a cruiser.
As long as you're enjoying it, man.
Right.
Yeah.
No, the kids love it. You know, we always have to go, you know, run them to the local ice cream shop in town, and I mean, that's most of it. Cruise them around and just have fun.
Right on. Have you taken it on any like long road trips or anything like that, or does it stay pretty
The
local?
longest trip is probably from Austin to Mankato. I know Sinclair and I did a show there. God, I don't remember how many years ago that was, but cool. We did an art show there, and I drove it up for that. I also drove it to a couple of the shows in Northfield, and then here today. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's probably under 90 miles one way, you know.
Cool. Yeah.
But mostly just town cruising,
pretty close to home.
gravel roads.
Yeah. Right on. That's cool. And I love that you have your artwork that's on it, and it's gone through a couple different iterations of it. But talk about that a little bit, because it had a couple different looks in its lifetime. Right. Yeah. So
the pinstriping is mostly on the front end, like down the center of the hood and the front fenders. Really the only place I've ever pinstriped it. I've never gotten to the dash or any of that stuff, which I've always meant to do, but you know, I didn't spend too much time working on other people's stuff. So I've redone the front pinstriping a few times, but the trunk is the Lucy Equipment, the name Lucy Equipment. And it's got a pinup on there, and I got that from kind of bomber art, you know, just always looking at the old World War II stuff. And when we were building the car, just trying to think of like what really fits, and Lucy is definitely a perfect name for it.
That's awesome.
So
you got some inspiration from artists that are your grandpa's age almost.
Yep.
That's
cool.
Looking
at, you know, just reference books of old World War II planes, and you know, the nose art and the jackets that they painted and all that stuff. So just, you know, the youngsters that were out flying those machines and in their downtime painted this stuff.
Yeah.
So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
What kind of got you started on your artwork? Like,
what
was your origin?
I always remember drawing, you know, like as I was coming up, but really, like I got into motorcycles. I got my first motorcycle when I was 8, 9, I think. And that was it after that. All I wanted to do was ride motorcycles. Cool. And got into racing eventually. Yeah, there's my 1969 Honda Z50, the very first year they made them. And I got that from my neighbor lady, who I was mowing her lawn, and she had this bike sitting in her garage from her kids. And she told me one summer, she's like, if you mow my lawn for half price all summer, I'll give you that motorcycle.
Whoa.
And I came home with that one day, and my mom was just pissed.
That's all the motivation you needed.
So, I mean, that sold me right there.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of motorcycles since then, and I raced motocross. And when I got into motocross and like all that stuff, you know, seeing like the helmets that the pros were wearing, like Troy Lee Designs, you know, he's been around forever and doing all the custom helmets. And I'm like, I want to try and do that. I want to figure that out.
Cool.
So I knew a few guys that had body shops in town, and was actually really good friends with both of them, you know, and just started asking questions and like, what do I need to do this? What do I need to do that? You know, how does an airbrush work, or how do, you know, all the stuff on paint, and just started asking questions, and they would show me a few things here and there, and I went and bought my own airbrush and then got some paint guns and kind of figured that out. And
Just try it.
right,
That's
just
cool.
trial and error, you know. And I wouldn't say that I'd want to show you the first stuff that I did, but you know, there's a lot of stuff out there, and you know, just figuring it out. And it was all before, you know, YouTube University, where you could figure this out. So I had to ask the questions, like go to the guys that were doing it, you know, and like books or any of that stuff. But you know, along the way, I'm like, oh, I probably need to figure out how to pinstripe to like finish the edges of these graphics and all that. So then I taught myself to pinstripe.
Cool. So you didn't have a mentor that like sat you down and showed you?
No.
You had to
I just
figure it out.
figured it out the hard way.
Wow.
So, you know, a lot of trial and error again. And I hated it. You know, when I first started, like probably the first year, maybe 2 years, just I'm not going to let this tiny little brush beat me.
Yeah.
So just kept at it, got better and better. And, you know, then I figured out, oh, I should probably figure out how to do lettering. Because, you know, used to go to shows and I'd always have people ask me to pinstripe their stuff, and then some would ask me to letter some stuff. I'm like, I turned down a lot of stuff right away. Sure. Just because I didn't like to do it, and I wasn't comfortable doing it at a show. Sure. And
there's a lot of people watching you.
Right.
You're probably your own biggest critic, I would think.
Yeah.
Most artists are.
Yeah. And you know, you get that, and it draws such a crowd when you do it at a show. So you get people coming in real close, and the funnest thing is like the kids, you know, they want to see it all, and they're getting right in there tight, you know, like bumping into you while they're doing it, which is not a big thing, but the parents are freaking out while you're doing it, like, get away from him, you know. It's like, they're fine. But then I'll, you know, like if I was doing it at a show and a kid would be really interested, I'd, you know, see the parents in the background, be like, hey, hand them the brush, like, you want to try it? Go for it. They look at their parents and get away from him. You know, you ain't gonna ruin it.
Yeah.
But
cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's a lot of fun to interact.
Just starting doing your own stuff, and then it just turned into doing it in front of other people at shows.
Right.
You had enough people that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't even really remember. It's probably just like some local shows that I first started doing it on, like a car that my brother had built, or you know, somebody that I knew. Cool. So doing that, like to kind of get in front of everybody, and then you know, I don't even remember how I landed on it, but I, you know, decided, like, I think it was the very first show I ever did was the Rusty Eyeball, which is where I met Sinclair. Yeah. And cool. I don't know how I landed on it, if it was like through the ham or something like that. Okay. You know, talking about different shows, but you know, I'd always seen people at like Back to the 50s and all these other car shows where they were painting, pinstriping on location. So I just went and tried that. We went up there it was in Wilmer, and ended up setting up next to him. And I mean, that's where I met Sinclair. It's where I met Jordan Dickinson, Jesse Dickinson. Yeah. Those guys at the time, they had Old School Customs, and now it's Union Speed and Style. Right. Bo Huff was there. Who else was there? There was a bunch of people that I met there. I just, you know, that was kind of the start of it all, that show. Awesome. And then we started traveling all around and doing a lot of the Midwest shows, you know, Minneapolis. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Sinclair's, that was one of the Northfield shows. There's so many people in that. Yeah. Yeah, we got into like a lot of the Minneapolis shows, like the Lucky Bastards Car Club had the Minneapolis Mess Around. Okay. We'd go to that. We'd go to the Bearded Lady Motorcycle Freak Show, and that was in Minneapolis. Did a lot of the World of Wheels. Yeah. The indoor shows, Donnie Smith Motorcycle Show. Just
any show promoters ever give you a hard time about it, like, oh, we don't want that here?
Not really.
Okay,
not really.
They're always like welcoming and.
Yeah, I mean, it draws a lot of attention when you do it, you know. Yeah. And it's not selling candles or wind chimes, so. Yeah. I mean, you know, anything car related to help out a show.
Very cool.
Yeah.
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 I dig that. Chris Chick is okay. Yep.
What year was that? That was a long time ago. 09, 08. Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Huh.
It's kind of funny, old school's in the background.
Yeah.
Neat. So you've probably evolved in your skill set, I would think, but have you changed the way that you stripe? Have you changed like a little bit of your techniques or some of your tools?
Probably, yeah. I would say. I mean, you always have progression, hopefully.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
hopefully you're going forward.
You're pushing yourself to get better.
Yeah, everything just kind of naturally goes forward.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, like this was a bike that I did with Jordan, and he hand fabricated the entire bike, and it went to the World AMDs over in Germany. So we were on a very tight deadline. I actually came back that summer. We had already moved to Arizona. I came back that summer and was painting that here. As he was making all the bike, Jesse's girlfriend would bring parts down to me. Can you spray this? Can you spray this? I'm like in the middle of doing everything. But yeah, the entire thing, all the lettering was hand painted, the pinstriping, all the detail work, everything that would have been a decal in that style of motorcycle, I hand painted. So even the oil tank badge, because it looks like the Harley factory decal, but it's actually says Union Speed and Style with their address. Wow. And yeah, it was a lot of work. And in the process of doing it under the gun, trying to get this done in the time that I had here, trying to get it to the shipper to go over to Germany before the show, I think I was spraying on the fender. I was doing the base coat for the fender and the tank, that blue. And my air hose exploded while I was spraying and starts dancing around like a snake, hits the rear fender and gouges it all the way down to the bare metal. I just lost it.
Yeah, it gives me a stomachache just
Absolutely lost it. I threw everything. I called Jordan and said, I'm not fucking doing this anymore. I can't do this. And he's, calm down, just relax. It'll be fine. So ended up fixing it, got settled down.
Man.
Turned out fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Everything is awesome.
That's what a great piece.
Yeah.
So you must have some body shop background and training also if you're spraying and you're pinstriping.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan brought me all the parts for that bike and was asking me all kinds of questions on what I was going to do to it for body work and how much filler and how much paint was going to be on it. And I'm like, I don't want to paint this. It's perfect.
Yeah. So he's bringing you like raw steel that he just
fabricated. all that stuff that he fabricated was just perfect. He's meticulous about everything.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
I mean, whether he says what he does about me, I mean. I think it was a degenerate.
Something like that, yeah.
But I still like the guy.
Man. But, and so there you have some leaf and some gilding that you did?
Yeah, this is actually my brother's chopper. It's a CB350 Amen Savior frame. And we were looking for an Amen Savior frame because way back in the early 70s, my uncle had built a Honda 750 with an Amen Savior frame, and supposedly it was one of the first in Minnesota. He had Donnie Smith twisted Springer front end and sissy bar and all this stuff on it, but like most of it you could buy from Amen Savior, like the tank and fenders and a lot of these parts. So he had put this bike together after he got back from Vietnam. He had wanted to build this bike, and him and his brothers had built a couple. One built a panhead, I think one was a shovel, and then Jay had built the 750 Honda. And he built it in his basement over the winter and then brought it out in the springtime when he was done. But anyway, I've always seen this photo of him sitting on this bike in my aunt and uncle's basement. And so we were looking for the bike because he had sold it and all that. And I found this frame. Justin Slingsby actually had this frame. And he's like, I don't know what it is, but it's an Amen Savior frame. So I went up to his place in Minneapolis one time and we were looking at it, and I'm like, well, it's not a 750, but I think it's a 350, the twin. Okay. So we ended up buying it because Nick had a bunch of Honda CB350s. Huh. And so he built this, hand formed the tank, kind of coffin style, and welded that to the frame. Wow. So just cool. Trying to paint and, do the liner on the tank and all that stuff was a lot of fun, having to manipulate the entire frame as one as we're doing it.
No kidding.
But yeah, he put that all together, and we sprayed it, it's a Ford brown metallic, kind of called it sewer pickle brown. But did all that, then did the leafing and a bunch of striping that, nobody will ever notice, but it's like really hard, complicated work, going completely around the frame and all the way full length.
Wow.
But it's a lot of fun.
After you do the striping and the leaf on it, do you clear over the top of it then?
On that one we did.
Okay.
Not always, but on that one everything is buried in clear.
Okay.
So especially with the leaf, that was variegated leaf on there, and then I hand painted all the detailings for the black over it. Yeah. Okay. And then all the pinstriping is done after the leaf, and then we cleared everything, buried it, sanded it, re-cleared it. A lot of process.
Yeah. No kidding.
So.
And do you have to give some of that stuff? I'll get a little geeky on you, but do you have to give the pinstriping and the leaf time to off gas before you can clear it?
You do on that one. If I remember correctly, I used all House of Color, so that you can clear immediately. There's no issues. If you were to do it in one shot, you'd have to harden it, or just let it dry, which could be a day, could be a week, could be a month.
Okay.
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
So.
Gotcha.
But yeah, even after the leaf, you want to let that kind of dry for a bit before you push any clear on it, so it could wrinkle or.
Yeah, let it cure a little bit and get some age on it.
Yeah.
Yep, that makes sense. Pick up any of the upholstery bug like your brother, or
no, I didn't. I'm not good with that. I haven't learned that machine. But my brother actually went to school out in Rapid City. There was a kind of a hot rod based school out there. And he did the upholstery section that they had. So
right on.
He went out there, and my cousins had owned a place in Nemo, kind of on Nemo Road. They had a ranch out there he lived at, and went to school. And
cool.
That's kind of where he learned all that.
Tell me about this picture.
John Wells. That was, what was it Iron Invasion? What was the fall show? Iron Invasion was the fall show. Vintage Torque Fest is the spring. Iron Invasion was the fall show. And that year he bought that. It was an iron head chopper. And it was all, I don't know, it was pretty gross. It was red, had giant death spikes on it. A lot of really sketchy stuff. And he bought it. And he called me, he's like, hey, can you make this look better? And then we're gonna give it away at the show.
Wow.
So he brought it up, and we did the best with what we could.
Cool.
And it was still sketchy, but repainted the bike. Jordan had built a seat for it, custom seat, all upholstered. I did the paint work on the tank and fenders, kind of some metal flake flames.
Cool.
And powder coated a bunch of stuff, powder coated the wheels, powder coated the frame, got rid of a bunch of the death spikes, had some machine work done. I think Chad Pearson did a bunch of the machine work for us. And then when we brought the bike to the show, that was somebody happened to have a camera when John responded to seeing it the first time.
Okay, I know this cat, Darren McKeag.
Yep.
From Iowa, is that right?
Yep, Cedar Rapids.
Yeah. Very cool. I haven't met him, but I recognize him from Instagram.
Yeah, no, Darren's a great dude.
Yeah.
I've known him for quite a while. Got to know him out at Sturgis. We were, when Jordan and I first started traveling around to shows, we got hooked up with a bunch of guys. I think Kevin Bass was kind of the head of it all, who he does the chopper class up in Lakeville now. It used to be at Kennedy. But he was part of this collective that was called the Limp Nicky Lot, and they traveled to a lot of the motorcycle shows, you know, Sturgis, Big Mountain Run, a lot of these different places. And he had invited Jordan and I out to Sturgis one year. And so we got all our stuff, went out there, hung out with these dudes, and they kind of invited us in. And, you know, because everything within the Limp Nicky Lot was based on builders, fabricators, every part of building a motorcycle. And it was kind of like a traveling circus. So we would, you know, go set up, everybody would have their bikes and do all the rally stuff, but, you know, you'd be actually working at the rallies. So I'd be pinstriping, Jordan would be doing seats or, you know, upholstery work right there on site. And, you know, it was just crazy good time. So got to know a lot of people through the Limp Nicky Lot connections, and Darren was one of them. And just gotten to be really good friends over the years, traveled together, hung out a lot of stories that can't be told, a lot of stories that wouldn't be believed.
Sure.
But yeah, this was one summer a few years ago. I went down to Darren's and just spent the day hanging out with him, met him at his tattoo shop, and then we went out for supper.
Cool.
You know, hung out at his house, spent the night, and we stayed up all night painting this helmet. And he did one side, I did the other.
That's cool.
And then ended up selling it to a customer out on the East Coast, and you know,
right on.
a lot of fun, and made some money doing it.
Yeah. Wow. You have cool friends.
Yeah. Yeah. Met a lot of them. A lot of them through all this motorcycle, hot rod stuff.
Yeah. Well, when you're working with your hands and you're actually doing it like live, people love that kind of thing.
Yeah, it draws everybody in, you know.
That's really cool.
Everybody's interested in seeing somebody actually do something.
Yeah.
So when you're creating, you know, it just draws a crowd, and
very cool.
A lot of like-minded people.
Yeah. Yep. So that obviously is inspiring you for future projects or styles that you want to tackle. Is there goals that you have? Like someday I want to create that or build that or make that.
I don't know if I'd say that as much as like goals to getting to those points. Like Darren's a big inspiration because he'll do a drawing every day. He's always creating, you know, and like he'll just post up something that, you know, did this drawing with morning coffee, you know. But I would really like to get to that point to where I'm drawing every single day. I have so many other distractions, you know, like keeping the kids going and all your typical life stuff. But you know, just to see what he puts out, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
It's amazing, like how much he can create, and like he's so fast when he does it.
Yeah.
Especially with his tattoos, you know, he'll just like start drawing with a Sharpie right on your arm, and then he'll go right into tattooing, and it'll be the loosest thing ever, and then it turns out amazing.
Wow.
You know.
And that discipline that he puts himself through day after day after day, and he's got such a unique style that you can spot it. Like you can see something and you know that that's Darren.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, that speaks volumes, I think, when somebody can see your work and be like, oh, that's one of Darren's helmets. That's one of his tanks.
Yeah. And you can see a lot of people that try to recreate it, and it's not always great. But yes, you can spot his stuff a mile away. It's very distinguishable.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of, you know, heavy black and white work, and just, it always comes out amazing.
Awesome. Wow, that's cool that would you say he's mentored you a little bit? Or like been a mentor to you, or just like a friend at least that just is encouraging
inspiration,
you, right? Inspiration.
And he's just the most humble person too, you know. So, but yeah, we've had a lot of fun. Like I said, traveled a lot of places. He's went to Germany with me before for some of the shows, and
you've gone to Germany for shows?
Yeah.
Whoa. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. It used to be called Bottrop Custom Culture, and was in this little town of Bottrop, and they actually held the show on an old airfield, and it was a 2-day show, cars and bikes, you know, traditional styled hot rods and choppers, and we would set up, and it was kind of a grassy area that they had these tents and, you know, the cars, and it was just a full-on party. But the second day of the show, for like 2 to 3 hours, they would actually shut down the airfield. And it was a busy airstrip, but they would shut down the airfield and they would have heads-up drag races. Anything you brought.
Whoa.
They would just do heads-up drag races right on the airstrip. So
Right on.
a lot of chaos, a lot of fun.
But that's where a lot of drag racing started was airstrips.
Yep.
When guys came back from World War II, right?
Yep.
Americans, and it sounds like Germans did the same thing, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah, they'd have everything from motorcycles, hot rods. There was even a guy that would show up he had a Vespa that he had stuffed a YZ250 two-stroke motor in. And that thing was so sketchy just because of short wheelbase, small wheels, but he would rip down that airstrip.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
So you said earlier that you'd relocated to Arizona. Was it work that took you out there? Do you have family out there?
Actually, my in-laws would winter out there. They'd
Okay.
go out for like February and March, and they're farmers, so they would take their side-by-sides and go out there and trail ride. And my wife was actually down there one time a week ahead of me while I was taking care of all the farm. And met up with some other nurses. She's a nurse.
Okay.
And met up with some other nurses at a bar one night, and they said they were looking for people from the Midwest, based on work ethic and all that stuff, because you're in a vacation destination, nobody wants to work. So she got curious about what they had to offer, talked to some more people, had a job interview, and then told me about it afterwards and said, hey, I got a job in Havasu, we're gonna move.
Whoa.
So
all right.
we ended up moving down there, and that's been 9 years ago now.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
You like it? You must. If it's been 9 years. Okay.
The winters don't suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty nice,
Very cool.
But everybody thinks you're crazy when you're from the Midwest and you're out there in a t-shirt and it's 60 to 70 degrees. They're all freezing to death.
They're in parkas.
Yeah. But no, the winters are really nice. I'd say 8 months out of the year it's really nice.
Right on.
But it gets really hot in the summer.
Yeah.
Really hot.
Yep.
And that's when all the people from California come with their boats. So
okay.
I always thought like the wintertime was the busiest time with all the snowbirds, but summer's just as busy because they all come to the river for the weekend and the party never ends.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So you do spend some time back up here in Minnesota and back in Arizona.
Yeah,
So
a lot of the times when the kids are out of school, we'll come back and, usually like June and July, we're back here.
Cool.
So come back, and I still got some shop space I can use at the in-laws place. And
Nice.
then, a lot of people calling me, repeat
Yeah.
customers, and when are you coming back? When can you do this?
Yeah, you have work on both ends.
Yeah.
Wherever you land,
Yep.
you got stuff lined up for
Yeah.
you, just waiting.
Bouncing around to shops all over. And,
Cool.
I've been up to Jordan's shop and worked on some stuff already this year, and
Yeah.
I know they got some more projects, but other shops, I go out to South Dakota and do a bunch of knucklehead restoration projects, and
Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
people all over calling.
Are you able to kind of filter through a little bit more now the type of work that you want to do?
Oh,
Is
yeah.
there stuff that you can say no to because
Absolutely.
you're not
Yeah,
starving for it?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. There's a lot of that. I mean, it's a bad habit, but I say yes to everything, whether I want to do it or not, or I have time.
Okay.
But just kind of figure it out after that, But yeah, there is a lot that, if I just don't have the time, I'm gonna
Okay.
not be able to do it.
Yeah. And have you passed off work to other artists then and said, hey, I'm
Not
not
a
gonna be
whole
your
lot.
guy?
Not
Okay.
a whole lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Usually you'll take it on
I
and-
usually try to get all of it, but
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
There's some, but like since we moved and I don't spray anything anymore. It's all hand painted.
Okay.
Somebody will call up and be like, "Oh, who in the area, like the Midwest, would you suggest to paint something?" And there's a couple guys that I would suggest, like Scott Takis down in Cedar Rapids, or a few others, but
Yeah.
try to drive them to the people I know and trust.
Yep. That's cool.
So,
Now, if you were talking to somebody who wanted to get some work done, what's some advice you would give them? Or maybe it's somebody that has never
gone through the process of having something, you know, a car or a bike or helmet or something like that done. They want it, but they don't really know what they're getting into. They don't really know what they're asking. What would you say to them? Walk me through some of that.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of the times, most of the people have a fairly decent idea of what they're getting into. I have had it at shows where people have actually brought me like a T-shirt that's got pinstriping on the sleeve or something.
Okay.
Can you put this on my bike? I'm like, I can do something like that, but I won't do that exactly.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
I'll never copy somebody else's work. I'm gonna make it my style.
Yeah.
You know, I'll make it fit, you know, to what you have for ideas, but it's gonna be my style.
Sure.
You
Yep.
know, so
Yeah.
just never stepping on toes.
Totally.
So.
Yep. That makes sense.
But yeah, there's when people come up, it's just, you know, I got these ideas, I want these colors, these areas, just kind of talk them through it, you know. Well, what's your budget? You know, how far do you want to go with this? You know, we can kind of constrain it to this, or we can go wide open and do this. You know.
Do some people just turn you loose and say, do what you want? I don't care.
Most of them, you know, a lot of the repeat customers that I've gotten to now are just, they'll call me up, you know, hey, I'm going to drop my bike off.
Cool.
I got a brand new bike. Just do whatever you want to do.
Nice.
So, and I've never had somebody tell me I did too much. So I think that's kind of a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, like try and keep it tame and to where I think is everything's tasteful, and just have fun with it.
That's cool.
So,
Are there some fads that you've seen come and go in pinstriping?
I don't know if I'd call it fads. There's a lot of bad work.
Yeah.
You know, just people that haven't got, you know, well, everybody's got a friend that knows how to do it. So
Yeah.
you'll get stuff that's just super chunky or, you know, really bad lines, and I don't know. You can see it a mile away, whether the people know it or not.
Sure.
You know, the guys in the industry see it.
Yeah.
So
The guys with 20 years experience
Yeah.
can spot the new
Right.
the new guy that
Right.
maybe shouldn't be selling work
but
yet.
everybody started somewhere, you know, so
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I wouldn't say that my first work was the best thing, and I probably wouldn't show it to anybody right now,
Sure.
but
Yep.
you know, it's out there, so,
Yeah. Yep.
and whoever's got it is probably still stoked on it, I think. They were
that's
stoked
cool.
on it at the time.
Yeah.
So.
That's cool. How about advice for young artists that want to try this?
Oh man, just do it. Just go all in, have questions, you know, ask people.
Cool.
You know, YouTube University has a lot of stuff, but it's got a lot of bad too. So I don't know. When I started doing it, I was kind of I was tried to put myself in the position, in the situation, to where I thought, you know, well, that guy's really good, or he knows a lot about whatever I'm looking to do, and would just try to work myself into that situation to ask the questions, you know. Whether or not the person's willing to help, you'll find out. But, you know, just ask questions, just do it, just repetition, muscle memory,
There you go.
lots
Yeah.
of practice.
Practice, practice, practice.
Yes. Yeah, when I first started, like I had, you know, I would paint panels like all day long, but I had actually got a chunk of glass, and on the back side of it, I drew like a 1x1 grid. And then I covered it with like some white vinyl or whatever, just to give it contrast. And I would just practice on that, and then I would wipe it off or let it dry and scrape it off, and just do it over and over and over, teaching yourself that left and right, you know, because it's a lot of work. I mean, some guys are really good at one side, but they can't do the other side.
Yeah.
You know, so just getting that symmetry of everything.
Totally.
It's a lot of practice.
And you're right-handed.
I am.
So do you start, when you're doing a symmetrical design, do you start left side first?
Every time.
And then right side?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So something as simple as that somebody that's never picked up a brush or tried before, but just giving him that advice, like, hey,
Right. Yep.
start on your opposite side of your dominant hand.
Well, your pinky's always on the one side. So, and there's a lot of people, you know, they might use a maul stick or pinky out or however they do it. I do pinky out a lot of the time. So I'm trying, you know, every line I'm thinking about where am I bracing my hand? You know, what am I going to run through, or what might I hit?
Yeah.
So just figuring that balance. One that I won't forget though, I think it was at the 100-car pileup down in Illinois, and I actually had a guy come up to me and ask me to stripe his baby's forehead. And it caught me off guard. I mean, I've had a lot of requests to do a lot of like weird objects, but never, I mean, I've striped, you know, people's arms or legs or whatever, you know, just for something to do at a show.
Yeah.
But never a baby. And I'm like, first off, I don't think your wife is going to appreciate this.
Yeah.
And second off, that's awful young to be putting chemicals on the baby's skin.
That was my first thought. Like, yeah.
Because it's going to go straight to the nervous system.
Yeah, this is solvents and pigments.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I want to do this one. I'm going to opt out.
Man, oh man.
Yeah.
That's,
But
yeah.
there, you know, there was, what were some other ones? Probably can't talk about those.
Have you had somebody that wants to turn your work into a tattoo?
Yep, I've had people do that.
Okay.
Where they actually, and I didn't want to use paint because of the way they tattoo it, so we actually had to draw it on with Sharpie, and then they went and had it tattooed on.
Okay.
So,
Cool. So they took your Sharpie work, turned it into a stencil, and then.
well, I actually drew it right on them.
Oh wow.
I actually drew it right on them, and they went into the tattoo shop right there. And,
Oh, right on.
Yep, had it
That's
done.
cool.
So
That's as live as it gets, right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Cool. But you've never picked up a tattoo machine yourself.
I have not.
Okay.
No, no, that's a whole different skill set.
Yeah, I did not call it a tattoo gun. Let the record show. It's not a gun. It's a machine. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do you have any other questions? This is good stuff.
There's a lot I want to know.
Yeah,
Well, okay, keep going.
Motocross days.
Motocross days.
okay.
That's a great. Yeah.
How'd you get into that? How far did you compete? Why'd you quit?
because I was old.
What's old in motocross? I don't even know.
I think I was done when I was 22, 23.
Okay.
But it all started with that Honda 50. That's what got me into it. And then, just like, I bought more bikes from there, kind of worked my way up. I think I had an Enduro, like a Yamaha DT 175, an Enduro bike, two-stroke, but it wasn't a full motocross bike or anything. But I drug out of one of my dad's friends had it in their barn. Yeah. And I drug it out of his barn, and he's like, $75, you can have it, Nice. Bought it, cleaned it up, repainted it, all kinds of shit. But
cool.
Had a lot of fun with that bike, and then just worked up from there, as I got summer jobs and, saved some money. Bought my first actual race bike was a CR125, 1989. I bought from a friend and started getting into it there, practicing, going to the local tracks like Plainview, Mazeppa, Millville, kind of southeast Minnesota area.
Yeah. Right.
And then I got a 95 YZ125.
Cool.
Tore that one down in my parents' basement over the winter, redid everything, put it back together.
Cool.
Went racing the next summer and went from there to a 2002 CR250.
Okay, so back to Honda again.
Yep.
Did you have a favorite brand? I mean, you were kind of jumping around.
I was always I had both Honda and Yamaha. One of my uncle's brothers had the Yamaha dealership in town. So, it wasn't blood relationship, but, he had the Yamaha dealership, so I always hung out with them and then got to be real good friends with everybody that had the Honda dealership in our hometown.
Cool.
And just kind of jumped back and forth and rode with all of them.
Cool.
But yeah, raced Millville, raced the Nationals, never went anywhere.
Okay.
Was just having fun.
Yeah.
So.
But I bet you had the coolest helmet out of all your buddies. Huh?
Not really. No? I didn't really even paint my own at that time.
Oh, okay. You weren't doing it then.
I was just, using what I had bought.
Okay.
But afterwards, once I got done with racing, that's when I really got into painting. So.
Got it. Okay.
But yeah, the last race bike I had was a 02 CR250, and I had in practice at Millville had crashed in the whoop section, broke my collarbone in two places in one crash, and that was kind of the slow ending of it. I didn't race a whole lot after that.
Okay.
Maybe a year or two after, but then I was done, and the bike got sold, went to Canada. Always kind of wished I would have kept it. And here a couple years ago, I found another O2, and it was in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Bought it while I was back here doing harvest with my in-laws.
Okay.
And drug it home, made it look like my old race bike, and
Nice.
so I got it back.
That's cool. That's cool. Jump on it once a year and just
Yeah,
rip around
well,
and
When I can.
Cool.
I've got that bike, and I've got an '08 450, so the 4-stroke.
yeah.
And
Nice.
I've got those down in Havasu. They're all set up for the desert, so running around the desert's really fun with them.
You know, like big paddles and you're hitting dunes
No.
and stuff? Oh, okay.
No, not like sand.
Okay.
You know, it's desert, big rocks and gnarly stuff. So,
Got it. Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
big tank and
Yeah.
a lot of suspension.
Do you have to have flags when you're doing that's probably only
not in
dunes.
Havasu.
Okay.
In the dunes.
All
you
right.
do. Yeah, in the dunes. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Huh. So tell me about when you're back helping harvest and on the farm and like you're a Midwest boy. I mean, so you were
Yeah.
did you grow up in town but then
I did.
Okay.
I did. But a lot of my friends lived out in the country, so I spent a lot of time out there. And then when I met my wife, they lived out between Austin and Rose Creek, so they had their farm and farmed. At the time, they were farming about 3,000 acres, and it's just a family farm, so a small operation doing 3,000 acres.
Yeah.
So they asked me to start helping them when we met, and started off run the stock chopper and just driving different stuff, and then eventually they asked me to run the grain trucks and semis, and so I ended up, that was kind of the last thing I ever did. I'd run 2 trucks at one time and spin circles all day long.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Run from the field to the elevator. And
Got it. Yep. Cool.
So got a
did
lot
you
of
have
time.
to learn how to shift a 13 speed or an 18 speed?
I did.
Okay.
The very first truck I did, but I had to learn the proper way. But then right after that, they bought all automatics.
Okay.
So then it was pretty easy.
All right.
But we still had long trailers, so getting out of some of the fields was a chore on the gravel roads.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So there were a few hairy moments where you're dipping tires into the ditch.
Oh man, yeah, those field approaches that they put in the 40s weren't made for semis, man.
No, not for anything 40 plus foot long.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah, so yeah, we did a lot of that, and then my in-laws actually are supposed to be retired, so they got rid of a bunch of their leased land, and now they're down to just one farm, and don't have much need for me anymore with that. So
Gotcha. Yep. Frees you up to do more other
Right.
things when you're back home in
Right.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Cool.
yeah,
Good for you.
Yeah.
Like fishing.
fishing.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
That's
Yep.
cool. Do you come back in the wintertime and
I
drill
do.
holes to the ice too?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep. We go
All right.
up to. We've been doing it for a long time. We go up to Lake of the Woods
Nice.
and go out ice fishing. There's a pretty good group of us that, have been doing it for. Well, we've been doing it our entire lives with my dad, but I've got some friends that have done it since high school with us, so 20 plus years.
Nice.
We've been going on this trip and
Wow.
go up to the northwest angle, and a couple of us actually ride snow machines across Lake of the Woods from the
Dang.
south shore out to the northwest angle. And
Wow. Like cats with the 4 tracks on them you're talking about?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Nope, snowmobiles.
Snowmobiles.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. So run them across the lake, and usually one good ride out and a survival ride coming back where it's, like minus 60 wind chills and no backing out.
Man. What's your favorite sled?
I don't know. Anyone that will make the
Whatever's
trip.
running. Okay.
Yeah, if it survives, it's good.
Gotcha.
Yep.
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 Cool.
What is this picture you sent me?
That is a 1941 Plymouth Business Coupe. I actually got that car from Jesse Dickinson.
This is your car.
It was. It was. It's the one I wish I never would have got rid of. But I got it from Jesse, did a bunch of paint work for him. It was kind of a trade deal. And the motor was blown up or something at the time. So I had sourced some other motor parts from a girl we know in the cities that had one. I think she actually had 2 of them. But got a motor from her and we rebuilt it, redid the interior, got it running like a sewing machine, and then I had the wild idea that somebody approached me about trading them for a motorcycle. And so one of my friends down in Illinois had built this, is a 1965 Triumph chopper, skinny Springer front end that he built, you know, did the whole bike. We ended up trading the car for the bike, and I did all the paint work on everything, and it was a lot of fun, but I wish I wouldn't have let that one go.
Yeah.
It was a fun car.
It's a sharp car.
Super cool, set up tail dragger, you know.
I love that wheel color. That's cool.
Yeah, that was all original. I thought it was like a dark blue when I first got it, but the paint was kind of oxidized, so once we kind of polished it out, it was really black. And then the wheels were kind of that steel gray.
What's some of what you keep in your kit? Like when you're going to show up and you're going to do some striping for somebody at a show or at their shop or something like that, what do you carry with you? You travel light? Do you keep a lot?
It started out, I tried to get everything in this old box, which doesn't work well because it's small.
Okay.
But I mean, I would have brushes and, you know, cans of paint, reducer, simple stuff. Obviously really outgrown that now. So that's mostly like, you know, Stabilo pencils, brushes, and that's really all I've got in there, and it's packed.
Gotcha.
I've got a lot of brushes. I've been in like the mindset, buy every brush and try it, see how it works. Still go back to the 00 Blue Wrap Mac. You know, like that's my go-to for any striping.
Sure.
Got some like Ted Turner used to make some of his own brushes, and I think they were called the Fireflies.
Okay.
But they were a lot more refined, really, really skinny brushes, and they work well for super fine lines.
Okay.
But I mean, those are like the two brushes I use the most. Other than lettering brushes, I've got a pile of those as well. But obviously, like I said, I outgrew that, and still take that around for the brushes. But I've got totes full of, you know, every color can of paint, and you know, reducers, hardeners, cleaners, wax and grease removers, all the stuff, anything I could take. So Sorel paper, all the stuff. So it's a lot more complicated to travel now. But I mean, I can go anywhere and do it.
Cool.
For the most part, you know, you can, as long as you can get paint, I could go anywhere in the world if I got my brushes. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll carry all of that stuff and, you know, take some tables and set up at somebody's shop and do some work, or if I can, try and direct everything to my shop.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, because you can control things.
It's a lot simpler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And you have probably the lighting that you want too.
The lighting,
do you have to carry your
the
lights
time.
with you?
You can put more time into
More
it.
time.
You know?
Yep.
So if you're at somebody else's shop, you always feel rushed.
Got it.
But
Yep.
No, it's mostly that. I've used all the paints. I think I started with Ronin and House of Colors, because the local sign distributor at the time, they actually had a van. They would come around to all the sign shops, and they carried Ronin for the most part.
Okay.
So I bought all that at first, and then One Shot, really got into them. I've always, you know, it's been almost 20 years I've used One Shot.
Sure. Yep.
So, but then when COVID hit, you know, you couldn't get One Shot, you couldn't get hardly anything. And I was having a conversation with Darren McKegg, and he's sponsored by Alpha. They have McKegg's Black, you know.
Yeah, he's got a color named after him.
Yeah. So he was really pushing me on that, and actually that time when I was down at his house painting, he gave me a bunch of their colors.
Sure.
And he's like, try this out, you know? And that was before, but once COVID hit, we were talking, and he's like, you got to call James, and, you know, they have all the colors. They've got everything. You can get it on board with them. So I bought a full color set of that, and been using it, but I still go back to the One Shot.
Sure. One Shot's the oldest, right? It's been around
I think so,
forever. Yep.
Yep.
And Alpha is made in Detroit.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, I don't know. I've just got so many customers and so many jobs out there that I've done with the One Shot that I know what the colors are, what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
And like when I do all the knucklehead restoration stuff, I know exactly what color I need, and I don't have to mix anything. That's kind of been my biggest selling point on it.
Yeah.
So
You have experience with it.
Yep.
It's predictable.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
And I've got so many jobs out there that, you know, I don't want to have one coming back saying like, why is this color different? So
I've heard Custom Shop has metallics and stuff
They
like
do.
that, or pearls
Yep.
maybe and stuff like that. Have you
Yep.
messed with any of those?
I haven't. One Shot used to have a bunch of pearls. They've got a few metallics like silver, gold, bronze, or brass, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, the metallics are tough because they dry out so fast in the brush. It's really hard to work with.
It's like
Really
striping
hard.
with glue.
Yeah. I don't know how the pearls worked. I never used any of those, but the metallics, they're something to learn. And a lot of the bike restorations I do require gold or silver metallic striping, so it's just always nerve-wracking when you got to like try and pull long, consistent lines with them while it's drying out as you're looking at it.
Yeah, it dries out so fast.
Yeah.
And you've done so many shows outdoors. Like your environment's constantly changing outdoors too.
And there's a lot of things I won't do at a show because of that, like long lines or, you know, I'll tell people I won't do any metallics at a show just because of that, because of the, you know, humidity or heat. And yeah, it's just, you can only do so much when you're there and you're trying to make money. So you got to do the small jobs that you know you can do quick.
Sure.
But I used to think I was really fast at striping. And like over the years, I think I've slowed down quite a bit.
Okay.
Just based on, I don't know if it's more care, you know, or being old. I don't know. But I get a lot of hell from some of my friends that are there. I got some friends in Havasu that are stripers too, and they give me shit about it all the time. They're like, "You're so slow. Quit overthinking all this." I'm like,
Yeah.
sorry.
Well, like, do you bid the job or do you charge by the hour? Like, how do you do it?
It all varies. You know, some jobs I'll just say it's going to be this much an hour if I know it's like a big, long, drawn-out job. Some of them I can just, you know, like if a guy brings a car and says, I want a hood and trunk piece and headlights, well, it's going to be this much.
Okay.
So
yeah, you've done it enough times, you know,
Yeah.
like that's what I charge for that. Yeah.
And like we said before, own worst enemy. So I'll get into something and be like, I don't like it. I don't want to put that out. So wipe it off, start it over. But if I was at somebody's shop, I probably wouldn't do that. And just rework it to make it look good. And, you know, I've had a lot of people ask me, what if you screw up? You know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to tell you. You can look for it, but I'm not going to tell you where it's at.
Yeah.
I'll just make it look like something else.
That's cool.
Add another line here or offset it somehow.
Cool answer. Yeah. Well, and you can wipe it off too.
Right.
If you're not happy with it, then Oh, cool. That's cool. Is there stuff that, well, you touched on it a little bit, but things that you don't want to do? Is there just things you say no to? You're like, it's just not my thing.
Not a whole lot. I don't know. It all depends if you ask me and I like you a lot.
That's cool. That's cool.
I don't know. There's just, I've done so much of this now. Like, I've gotten really into a lot of, you know, the artwork now. You know, when somebody will have a helmet or, you know, Builtwell approaches me or like Indian Larry Motorcycles, you know, be like, hey, we're going to have this show and we're going to auction off these helmets, you know, do whatever you want.
Nice.
That's the best thing, you know,
That's cool.
when you can just do whatever, have no timeline. Well, I mean, you're going to have a deadline anyway,
but they'll send you like 6
an
helmets.
extended,
and say, just do what you want. In 8 months, we'll get them back for this and we'll auction them off or something.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the best when you just kind of have the idea and run with it, see what happens. And, I don't know.
I dig it.
Yeah, I just did.
Cool.
The last couple of years I've done for Builtwell now, they have their parts and labor show. So they'll send out their newest helmet and whatever they're going to debut at that show and have like 10 or 12 different artists paint whatever. They just, what do you want for a helmet? What color? And then run with it. And I've gotten into like a lot of lot of the fishing artwork. So
Yeah.
like old lures and trout and all this stuff, and
Yeah.
you know, anything run in that direction.
That's cool. Well, and it's a throwback style too. It's traditional, you know,
Right.
to stuff that was
Yep.
hand painted, hand drawn
Yep.
from the 40s,
Yep.
World War II stuff, 50s, 60s, all the way through before digital really became a thing, right?
Right, right.
Is that kind of where?
Yeah,
where you land?
lots of color, bold
Yeah.
lines, you know,
Yeah.
just making it super simple, but also doing what you can with it and
Yeah.
making a cool design.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for bringing some of your artwork in and telling us about it. And,
Yeah.
And some of your experiences and your car. Like, this was really fun to sit
Yeah.
down with you, man.
Yeah, I had a great time.
Thanks for bringing it in.
Yeah.
Hey, we want to make sure and thank our Patreon supporters. We couldn't do this without you guys. And so if you're wanting to be a part of the Patreon community, go check that out at peaceandgrease.com. Peace and Grease Community. peaceandgreasecollective.com. And we also want to make sure and thank Wire Care, because they sponsored this podcast, and we really appreciate them being on board and making a lot of this happen. So go check out wirecare.com for all of your wiring projects, big projects, small projects, little 2-cycle mini bikes, all the way up to big semi trucks. They got what you need over there for tools and all the connectors and heat shrink tubing, zip ties, all that stuff. It's all there. So anyway, Wire Care, thank you guys. We appreciate you too. So, all right, we will catch you on the next episode of Peace and Grease Podcast.